I'm Michelle.
And I'm Katherine.
And we're here at the Healthy Hurried Human podcast,
where we talk about keeping pace in a world that never slows down. Welcome back to the Healthy Hurried Human podcast. Today we're going to do a deeper dive on one of the topics we already brought up in our first season. Today we're going to do a deeper dive on the how to establish your healthy inner circle.
We are. It's funny, this is really prevalent right now because, I'm trying to start the book on something that I've been asked to do for a really long time. So I'm immersed in healthy inner circle. It's one of our favorite topics. I think we enjoy talking about it and we enjoy doing the trainings on it. I think it was really neat. One of the times we did the first time you got to see the training, you got to see other people respond in a group setting the way you responded the first time you heard it. There's a real kind of leaning into it, and sometimes it kind of sparks some emotion. But I just want to set the framework. You're going to ask me some questions to help me dig deeper. But the framework for healthy inner circle is I want you to imagine 3 circles. The inner circle, middle circle, outer circle. It looks like a bullseye. And when we look at it, I call this relational nutrition or a nutritional relational standard. And it's this way of being able to put people, put people in a place in our life that fuel us and not drain us. So I want to, instead of standard, I think we should use relational. What'd you say?
Relationship nutrition.
Relationship nutrition filter, because it's that thing that we lay over each relationship that we have, that we say, is this person inner circle? And so in the inner circle, this is what's key and what's most important. Inner circle people have 3 elements. So they are emotionally available. This means that they are present. They are not dismissive to where we are, not where they are, where we are in that present time in our emotional state. So they're emotionally available. Number 2, the second element that they have is that they are an encourager. They're a high encourager. They speak life-giving words to us that fill us up and cause us to deepen our belief in ourselves. And it shows that they have belief in us. So emotionally available, high encourager. And then the third thing is that they are honest. However, the caveat to this is that they have, because of their relationship, they've earned that place to be honest with us, and they know when to use it. As I was writing the other day, this kind of came to me, is that honesty is everyone's go-to. Everybody in our life that thinks they're close to us or whatever, they think honesty is the thing they owe us, and it's the easier thing to offer in friendship or in a relationship. Let me be honest with you. Is it okay if I'm honest? Or that question that everybody kind of gives before they tell you. Really, it's an opinion. Oftentimes it's an opinion. I wouldn't say every time, but oftentimes it's an opinion, which would help us be able to answer if we said that. Hey, Katherine, can I give you my opinion right now? Nope, I don't really want an opinion. But when people frame it in honesty, we feel like, well, I should be open to honesty. But oftentimes people go to, it's a human nature thing. We go to honesty because that one is easier than to show up emotionally. And it's also easier to do that than to go to encouragement. It's an easier thing to lean into as a human being.
Okay, so let's just unpack that, because you've just dumped a lot of stuff right there at the beginning. I know we talked about it in the first season, but just to recap, because this is really great stuff. Filter. I love that term, that this is
why it's taking me that long to find that
relationship standard filter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is. That's just a perfect analogy for realizing you're letting people into a could we call it a sacred space, a tender space, like the room where your true self loves and lives and dwells? And if you think of it as a filter of these, who is allowed into that room? Because they are going to be good for you. They are going to be gentle towards you. They are going to
That's right.
they are going to see who you really are, and they want the best for you.
It's people, yes, all of that and more. Let's stand up in the back and cheer, because that's exactly right. But it's our life-giving source. It's the people we're letting into this inner chamber, that inner chamber is our life-giving source.
Sometimes people use inner circle to talk about they think of it like a council. Who do I go to for advice? Who do I go to for guidance? And I don't think that's the right definition, because you could have a council of advisors. That is not inner circle.
Well, and you can have a council of advisors for your business, maybe your marriage, parenting. Like, I don't go to the same people for my business that maybe I talk to about parenting or marriage or friend. That is really good. Need to add that to a book. Part of our book. We got to send a note to Grant and tell him, add that as a note, because that's really good, Katherine. And I never really thought about that, and that hasn't come up, because I've kept this in the circle of this came out of counseling. So that is a really good distinction that you brought up, because there is counsel. This isn't our counsel. This is our life-giving source.
But one more thing, go back to the honesty part of what you were saying about the honesty. It's such a profound thing, where if we find it easier, sometimes being honest is the easier throwaway than to sit in the emotion of what's actually going on, or to do the extra work to figure out what's really going on in someone else's life. I mean, that's a very interesting concept, because I know anger is easier to get to. Like, we feel more comfortable in anger sometimes in our emotions. And this is kind of a new thought for me of, it might be easier to be honest because it's just giving your opinion and walking. Like, you're caveating of, hey, I'm just going to throw this at you. And because I've asked if I can be honest with you, then there are no consequences for if what I say to you is not well received, or if it's hurts your feelings, or.
So there's your part.
Oh, thank you.
So there's two things here to that, and I hope I can keep my mindset on that. So one, we think as humans, honesty can be hard, because you think because that's where we put honesty, is somebody asks you a question and you want that instinct to be like, I don't want to tell them, I want to lie, whatever. So you or whoever's listening might want to say, I don't know if honesty is the easiest thing. But if you put it in the frame of like what you just said, I want to throw out my opinion, that comes so easy to us as human beings. But trying to get to where someone is emotionally takes a little effort and work. And sometimes we don't have the energy for that. I would say oftentimes as human beings, we don't have the energy or don't want the energy. And so to enter into where someone else is emotionally is not, it's easier just to be like, hey, I've got an opinion for you, versus trying to figure out where they are emotionally, trying to sit in that, trying to match that, trying to give space to that. That takes a lot more. I even think about it on the excitement scale. Think about somebody who has come in and they're so excited, and you're not really having a great, exciting day. I've got some really great news. It takes a lot to get there to be like, you do. Usually we're like, oh, tell me. And then they're so excited. And I know I've done this, and I am a pretty emotional, empathetic person, where I know in that moment, I did not give them the joy that they had. I know that I'm also thinking about my children when they are like, guess what? And you're like, that's great. Because it takes, and I don't know that we pay attention to that, but it takes a lot of energy to enter into somebody's where they are and to meet them where they are emotionally. It also takes a little bit more effort to give somebody encouragement, because you have to stop and you have to assess. If you don't want to give platitudes, that takes more effort. But man, we can draw an opinion and offer it disguised as honesty in a second. That's a human, I think that's our human ability.
I mean, I don't think anybody who knows me would be surprised that I have opinions about things. I have a lot of opinions, but I think it's important. I think that's an important separation, is to start asking ourselves, is this really honesty or is this really an opinion? And if it is an opinion, does it need to be said right now? Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't need to be said by me? And what does my friend in front of me need? So let me, since I'm the one that took us on that dog leg, let's bring it back to the relationship standard filter that we're talking about for healthy inner circle, that we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive. I'd like to, we had alluded to this in the first season, and we ran out of time. So I'd like to hear the kind of origin story for healthy inner circle. How did this come from? Why is it so personal to you? I think what makes it so strong and powerful when you're using this is because you created this out of your own experience.
My own experience. So I created this, maybe 15, 18 years ago. And it was kind of one of those things that as a counselor and as a therapist, sitting with people, taking them through the process. So I was probably taking them through the process, but it wasn't until it was my own personal story that it kind of formulated. And so for me, it was with my dad. And there was always this kind of a struggle when it came. My dad, in my mind, I would have said he's my inner circle because he's my parent. My mom's in my inner circle. People I have longevity with are in my inner circle. That's what I thought. That was the thing I thought, is you have those people in your inner circle. With my dad in particular, what I know now is that his love and protection was shown through, being honest and also questioning. He questioned when you would say, "Hey, I'm doing this," or "Oh, this really happened." There were questions. And for years, that felt like an assault on maybe my inability or my capabilities. It felt like an assault on his lack of trust in me and my, does he trust that I can make good decisions? That was how I would, what is the word we use for nutrition when we metabolize? That's how I metabolized it. Is I didn't think he trusted me. I didn't think he thought I was capable, and I would leave situations, whether it was a high note or a low note, just feeling frustrated with him, feeling less than, not feeling seen, put all of those superlatives in there. That's what I would feel with him. I didn't always feel it with, other people in the inner circle, but it was my dad. And when I was able to formulate this and realize that this is the way, when I could see my dad for who he is, and that's how he showed love. He had done that our whole life. His way of showing love was safety and protection. And sometimes that comes out with, I have questions about what's going on here. That was him showing great love for me. I remember when I was in college, I said to him, "Hey, I'm going to go into the inner city, the depths of the inner city of Chicago." I don't know why I'm laughing about that, but I think I'm laughing about it because I have a 19-year-old right now, and I'm like, of course. And so I was so excited, "Dad, I'm going to go sign up and I'm going to be part of this thing that goes into inner city Chicago." And he was just there. He was not having it.
You were doing like a volunteer.
That's right.
With the inner city,
That's
people
right.
in the inner city. You
In
weren't
Chicago.
just going to hang out.
No, I wasn't going to hang out, but it was Chicago. He didn't know who the people were that, he had never met them. And I know as a parent, I'm like, who is involved here? And I just remember that was one of those strong points, because he had these questions that, who are these people and what are you going to be doing? And what's the day look like? And how are you going to be safe? We are here in Atlanta, and I was a suburb person. So, I'm his daughter. I'm his firstborn daughter. And so now as an adult, you can look at it and be like, oh, totally get where he was coming from. But at 19, I didn't. I thought, he doesn't trust me. He doesn't think I make good choices. I don't have common sense. I went to all those places, right? As I started doing this work and formulating it and understanding where I needed to get my fueling first, where I needed to be seen, I was able to understand that then I could go to my dad. So really what I did is I realized my dad doesn't belong in my inner circle. He belongs in my second circle. Because when I go to my first circle, it's like getting a good meal and not being tempted to eat another meal an hour later. You're not even tempted. I mean, I'm not.
Satisfied.
Yeah, you're completely satisfied because I was encouraged. I had the emotional availability of others. And then I even had honesty when it needed it. And I felt satisfied so that when I went to my dad and shared the same exact news with him, I was ready and I started to be able to filter what he was giving me, which is his love and his protection, and it didn't drain me. And what was great is I know that he wasn't walking away scratching his head, because I know that he did that often of, I don't know what I did. Why doesn't Michelle understand that I love her? Why does she think I don't love her? He asked me that a few times. Why do you think I don't love you? It changed our relationship in such, I'm gonna get through this real quick because it can hitch me, because over the last 15, 18 years, our relationship deepened because my dad's value didn't change because I moved him to the second circle.
His value to you didn't change.
His value to me did not change at all. Mm-hmm. It actually allowed it to, I love what it said here. Well, I can't find
your
it
pre-written notes. My
pre-written notes, like what I wrote down the first time. It changed our relationship in such a way that he and I were able to bond, because I gave him the space to love me the way that he knew how to love me. And he wasn't feeling that unconscious grabbing and twisting and trying to love me the way I need you to love me. I allowed him to love me the way he knew how to love me best, because I was getting what I needed before. And it gave me that language to then be able to help the clients that I had. And so it sort of has become this thing that's grown.
I remember when you were first introducing Inner Circle to me and you were explaining the origin story of this, you said that when you had the right perspective of what your dad was really offering, then you stopped being disappointed because he wasn't giving you what you needed.
That's right.
So can I just transition that into my next question about this? So for other people, what are some signs that someone is relationally malnourished? They're looking for fulfillment from the wrong people. I think we've already established that, or the other part of that question is, can you make somebody that you want in your inner circle? Because I think while it was relief for you, sometimes it might be disappointment that the person you really want to have show up in your inner circle wasn't there.
Well, so let me get to the first part.
Okay.
When you have the wrong people in your inner circle, I think you feel frustrated. I think you feel drained. I think oftentimes you feel unimportant and not highly valued. They didn't even make time for you. Brought this up once when it comes to people who are emotionally available, who are like, hey, let's get together, let's do stuff. And then when you say do it, they're like, I don't have time. You just feel like, well, I don't feel like I'm real important. You don't feel important. It's like, well, do I matter? Mm-hmm. So I think you feel that often. I know that's one of the things I felt with my dad, and that was a frustration for both of us, because he didn't understand, why does she not know how much I love her? And once I think it's like putting on different glasses that you're like, oh my gosh, I see it. Can you the second part of your question was, can we what was your question? Can you make someone in your inner circle?
Can you make somebody be in your inner circle if you want them to be?
I don't think so. And that is because I think once you start using this filter, this new relational nutrition filter, I don't think you'll want to. Because that tug isn't there.
So what if you have a person, what if someone is listening and they say, I don't know that I have anybody in my life that shows up for me like this? I mean, is it that we need to reset our expectations? Or I know personally for me, I think about a time when I was going through some really hard things, and one of my best friends in the whole world, every time I talk to them, say, oh, I'm just so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I never felt like they were in it with me. I'm like, I don't need you to be sorry. And then this other friend, I reached out to them. They had been through some similar struggles, had this, could tell in one phone call if my voice was off, and would email me, hey, here's a book I read, pages from their own journal. And I remember thinking, oh, I didn't expect that person to have what I needed, but I realized that my best friend could not show up for me at this place. But this other person that I wasn't expecting was, for that time, the person that was going to hold my hand through this.
So we're kind of getting to that.
Yeah.
But I think this is excellent, because this is important. We tend to think our inner circle are the people we spend the most time with, or that we're related to, or that we have history with. Those are the mistakes that people think of. You certainly go to those people first to lay your filter over them. Are you my inner circle? Are you my inner circle? Isn't there a book? Are you my mama? That's it. That's what I was thinking. I was like, isn't that something? But you, I love what you said when it's like a friend that you wouldn't have maybe thought was in your inner circle showed up for you in a way, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, because inner circle isn't about family relation, history, or who you're with the most. Your inner circle person could be somebody who doesn't even live in your city. It's somebody that you have a conversation with and you talk to. You know me, I'm a huge Marco person. And so it could be the Marco people.
Marco Polo.
Yeah,
app.
It's an app. And so I would say there's a couple people on my Marco feed that are my inner circle people. So I would encourage, if somebody's, because I have had that. I've had that many, many times, who say, I don't think there's anyone who shows up for me. And I always push back and say, I don't know. I think you need to take the filter and lay it over every relationship you have, because I think you're probably missing someone. So that's number one. Number two, I always say, start being this to people. Start being emotionally available, not to everybody, but pick people and start being this. And all of a sudden you might actually see it. You give it to get it back, I think, sometimes. And then I do a lot of work with high schoolers and young adults who don't have their friend circles in their communities yet. And I teach them that is start practicing this, because if they're practicing it, they start paying attention to whether they're getting it.
Mm-hmm. So that leads us into another concept about inner circle, is that this is private. This is not for public broadcast. Like, I never said to my best friend, you know what? You're not showing up for me in my time of need. And I never said to my other friend, you're now in my inner circle. So why is it important that, and to be honest, the roles have changed. I hardly ever talk to that other person who was critical for my survival at that time. Mm-hmm. But I'm still, my best friend and I are still like super close.
So I want people to understand that, one, this is private and it's fluid. This is private because this is your personal care. This is your relational nutrition. Just like, I know we love to talk about nutrition, but when we go sit down and eat, we do not start critiquing and announcing what other people have on their plate. We're not, hopefully, right? This is private. This is your care. This is what matters for you. It's fluid because life changes, people change, circumstance changes, where people, I've seen this with women where one gets married, starts having babies, one is single, and it starts to change because their life circumstances aren't going to play to that. But I like what Grant said, my personal assistant. He said, "This isn't social. This isn't this social Facebook. It's not your social circle. It's not social management." And I was like, "Oh, that's good. This is not social management. This is private. This is your personal relational care, and you have to be open and know that it's fluid and it's okay."
So while we're talking, and earlier I had mentioned that this is not your business counsel you go to for advice.
That's right.
Or it's not your advisory board. We do teach it and we do have a business workshop that we teach inner circle.
That's right.
So literally the first time you introduced this to me when I came on board working for Foxygen, I looked at you and said, how in the world do you apply this? Because it felt very personal to me. How do we apply it to the workforce? And I think it's twofold.
It is twofold.
So do you want to talk about those two?
Yeah. So it's twofold because you've now been with me and we've done it in the workforce where employers are interested in giving their employees a training that's something that they can use on their personal life. So this is the part that we've just spent most of the time on. This is very personal. But the flip side of it is for management and leadership training. And we teach a product. We call it something different. We don't call it Inner Circle. But we do a product where we're teaching middle management and higher up how to be these things for the people they lead, how to be emotionally available,
Big encouragers.
which they notice and they interact with the emotional availability. Noticing. I mean, at work, it just would be so wonderful if you felt like your manager or your next tier of leadership just paid attention and noticed where you're at. So the emotional availability, the big encourager, especially during really stressful times. All workplaces go through the stressful times and change. I mean, those are the two constant at work. There's going to be stress, there's going to be change. And so being big encouragers, not cheerleaders in that it falls flat, but truly understanding where people are and what they're going through and stepping into that and saying, let me encourage you in this very specific way during this very specific time. And then understanding that it's their job to provide honesty, but it has to be earned. And so often leadership and management start with honesty first. And that tends to start putting up walls and allows people to kind of, well, I know who you are now, right? So that's not getting into it terribly, but that's kind of an overview of some of the training that we do when we take this and flip it for workplace and leadership and management.
And we've really seen a difference in how helping managers use this to approach people. And what they found is that problems get resolved faster because people are more willing to come forward and say, hey, I need help. Hey, I need coaching. So problems are brought forward faster.
That's right.
Resolutions are worked out smoother. There is more satisfaction in their job because they know their boss is pleased. They're not worried about that. And there is it builds a camaraderie that you just don't get if you just don't get that without these three things being offered, like you said, demonstrated from the leadership to their next level. And if that is replicated down the throughout the org chart, there is a remarkable difference because you see, I mean, all the buzzwords, right? Engagement, job satisfaction, loyalty to a company, retention, improved dynamics. And it's all because we're teaching middle managers how to show up or leadership, how to show up in the lives of the people that they're working with.
That's right.
And it's an interesting transition.
It's a really very healthy shift, and I really love watching it.
Can I make one teaser? I have not told you about this because I want in a future episode I'll say it at the end just in case we have to take it out. But I want in a future episode us to take this and talk about psychological safety at work, because that is another big topic that's out there, because this is one of the tools, a filter that you can use.
That's right.
At work. If y'all are wondering at all, what is psychological safety? How do I know? This is another tool that you can use as a filter to know, is this person for me? Is this trust level equal? Is this should this person be in my confidences? And there's a little bit of a twist to the 3 phrases or words that you use as the filter. They're the same, but we just put 1 or 2 different words on it, and it makes a complete difference about psychological safety, which was the mind trippy thing that I had when I first started working with you about that, because
That's right.
Putting that through the filter of our work, it is significant about what's going on with work. So future episode.
My belief is you cannot have psychological safety without this foundation. This to me is the foundation to build psychological safety. And I know that people are going to be tempted to think that's a buzzword, but it's not, and it's very important. It's something to really pay attention to at work. So hope everybody's enjoyed.
Well, really thank you for
dive.
sharing this is a little bit more personal and intimate conversation than we've had before about this, but Healthy Inner Circle has been one of my favorite tools that I've gotten since working with Voxygen, and I hope everybody appreciates the origin story and that get a lot out of it. Feel free to reach out with some questions if you have any, or share it with anybody that you know that you want to process. This is one of the great episodes to have someone else listen to and talk about amongst friends. Thanks for coming.
The Healthy Hurried Human podcast is presented by Voxygen Consulting. At Voxygen, we provide business and performance psychology and consulting. We believe healthier people make a healthier workplace. Voxygen Consulting, breathing new life into your organization.